All right, I'm Brandon Johnson. I'm a cloud solutions architect at Red Hat. I've been probably in the industry now for just about 10 years. I started my career down the street at Novell as the escalation Linux desktop engineer for the help desk. Because at the time, the help desk, Theo knows this, he was there with me, the help desk was full of people who knew nothing about Linux. And Novell was doing a huge migration from Windows.
They were the ones that ran it, or they were the ones that contacted the help desk?
The end users. I'm talking about end user desktops, laptops. Then those were running Novell Linux Desktop or SUSE Linux Enterprise Desktop, and we were the escalation engineers there at that time.
It almost sounded like the ones that didn't know anything about Linux were running the help desk.
No. If you talk about the help desk guys, like they were all Windows guys.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. They were all Windows guys.
That is what you meant then.
So I'm going to be talking about a product that Red Hat acquired about 2 years ago. The company we acquired was called ManageIQ. ManageIQ was built from the ground up to manage enterprise virtualization platforms such as VMware and Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization. And we've grown it to not just manage VMware and Red Hat Enterprise Virtualization, we've grown it to also manage Amazon, Openstack, and eventually other cloud providers such as SoftLayer, Azure. Like that's something we're going to be targeting. Specifically Azure. Azure has been one of the probably the biggest demand from our customers. Not surprising, it is actually a really good cloud platform. So, way Red Hat works, just to give you a quick marketing slide. Red Hat, we contribute to the hundreds of thousands of open source projects, and we create our communities, such as the Fedora project, probably the one that's most known, the JBoss community, and then the Overt community, Gluster and Ceph, acquired Ceph last year, and then RDO, which is our upstream distribution of OpenStack, kind of look at it as the Fedora of OpenStack, and then OpenShift, and we create the OpenShift origin community, which is made up of bits of everything above, probably not so much OpenStack, and then CloudForms. So CloudForms is upstream is ManageIQ. We named the project after the company we acquired, and even using its branding. And ManageIQ is the open source project, and the downstream product is a Ruby on Rails appliance. We ship it even on upstream. We ship it as an appliance based on Ruby on Rails. It's highly scalable. It's meant for cloud scale. It's meant to not just manage your virtual machines. It's also a whole orchestration lifecycle platform. So we'll get into that. So what is cloud? Really, I get this a lot. What is cloud to Red Hat? What makes it so that you're on a cloud? So most customers, they have their existing virtualization platform. Usually it's VMware, running their Linux VMs and Windows VMs. And they have, I call this cloud systems management. This is like if you're familiar with Spacewalk or Red Hat Satellite or Catello or Foreman, that's what this is. So this is your configuration management, your software management, and your bare metal provisioning. So this is what's going to provision your ESX hypervisors. This is what's going to provision your Rev hypervisors. So, and then a lot of my customers, they're looking to add what's called cloud management platform. So this is what's going to add self-service, orchestration. The orchestration is the integration with other platforms inside your organization. So when you need to request a virtual machine, you need to not just request the virtual machine. You need an IP address. You need a DNS name. You need storage. You need whatever makes up that virtual machine. So that's where a cloud management platform comes in. And also, you don't want Also, like another thing that Cloud Management Platform is supposed to help you with, not just with the orchestration, help you with the policy. So like if a template if a VM template still has a version of Bash that's still vulnerable to shell shock, you don't want that template to be deployed anywhere in your environment. So one of the things that a cloud management platform is supposed to be able to do is prevent that from happening, prevent that VM from even starting. And then a lot of my customers are then adding alternative virtualization. So that's where a cloud management platform helps you. It helps you manage the multiple virtualization platforms that you're putting into your organization. So you're running VMware and you want something cheaper because VMware is hideously expensive. And then also I have customers that are now looking into on-prem cloud. So I'd rather say on-prem infrastructure as a service, so Openstack. And then having the public cloud, so Amazon and Azure. So that brings down to the whole hybrid cloud. So you have Red Hat Satellite for config management, package management, Red Hat CloudForms for the orchestration, the analysis, monitoring, and policy enforcement, as well as self-service for end users.
Do you use your tools to do updates to the cloud, to bring down certain parts of your cloud and replace them with others? Kind of like hot swapping?
Like,
I don't know.
Like rolling load balancer changes, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah, like moving the clouds around if you want to do maintenance on one server that's hosting the cloud.
that's something that can be definitely orchestrated. So I'm not going to get really deep into OpenStack. I'm only going to show this one slide. But OpenStack, it's made up of all these core components. That's all it is. It's just made out of components. It's a framework. A lot of people are kind of saying that OpenStack is that cloud management platform. It's not. It's a framework to help you build infrastructure. That's it. And then, let's see, I'm going to skip that one. So with CloudForms, we need to be able, one of the things with CloudForms we want to be able to do is get insight into our environment. So this is getting the utilization metrics inside of, say, VMware or Rev. This is knowing what is running on my virtual machine, what packages are installed, what users are in just etc password. Control. So with control, I can make it as simple as this version of Bash is installed and it's vulnerable to shell shock. Don't prevent that VM from starting up. Or I can use control to help me enforce or just to alert me, prevent the template from coming up. Or I can have it to help me enforce configuration management. System happens to fall out of management with Puppet or Salt. Highly doubtful, but someone goes and deletes Puppet. I can say, hey, Puppet is no longer installed on this system. Flag it as non-compliant, email the system administrator to reinstall it, or have CloudForms reinstall it for me. That's kind of where automation comes in. So that's the whole orchestration and lifecycle piece. And that's also where integration comes in. So automation and integrate. One of the things. When an end user comes in, one of the things I mentioned right at the beginning, when an end user comes in, when they want to request a virtual machine, they need to get an IP address for that virtual machine. So we can integrate with an IPAM solution like Infoblox or OpenIPAM and get that IP address, assign it to that virtual machine using something like Cloud Init or VMware configuration management specification.
Brandon, quick question. question.
Mhm.
So it sounds like there are some pieces of the CloudForms that reside on these servers and things. Do you use an agent, or do you rely on third parties?
We do
to
not.
talk to you through standards-based protocol?
CloudForms relies on web services APIs at the endpoint, so like with IPAM. So like, for example, using Infoblox as the example, Infoblox has a web services API. We write code to integrate with
The RESTful
Infoblox.
services.
And we also have a REST API at our end. So some ticketing systems don't really have that great of an API. For example, I don't want to bash on anyone, but specifically Remedy. Remedy's SOAP API is a nightmare to work with, especially if your implementation of Remedy is highly customized. If you've worked with Remedy, you know that. Like if you have a dependent, if a field in a ticket form has a dependency, you're not going to know that until when you're using the SOAP API, you select that. You're not going to know what the dependencies are. So I'd rather have Remedy talk to CloudForms. I'd rather have an end user fill a form and then have Remedy kick off a workflow on CloudForms. So as I mentioned, Red Hat is for CloudForms itself. We ship it as an OVA. It's easy to install. It's horizontally scalable. And we do the same thing with ManageIQ Community. It's a appliance, or you can just download the code, run it on CentOS, or if you wanted to, Ubuntu. So let's see, I'm going to go down. Out of the box, one of the things that we've worked on out of the gate was integration with like F5 as well, not just Infoblox, because like we want to be able to build services. So in terms of what a service is in CloudForms, a service is really to the end user, it just looks like multiple virtual machines. But to us, it's a lot more than that. A service could be made up of a load balancer, the IP address, and not just IP address, the IP addresses of those virtual machines. Also, the storage underneath. So if I've integrated with NetApp, and those virtual machines have their own storage pool on NetApp, I want to be able to manage that lifecycle. So when I retire that service, I get rid of the F5 load balancing pool. I return the IP addresses to IPAM. I remove the DNS entries. I release the storage in NetApp. Kind of gone into that already. So, and there was also we also in CloudForms, one of the things we're working on today is cloud bursting, and this is part of that whole services model. So not just VMs, but I also want to manage I also want to be able to burst into cloud. I want to be able to burst into Amazon. So I'm running several virtual machines in VMware. I'm out of infrastructure. I just simply am out of infrastructure. I need a burst to the cloud because the application's running hot. So I want to be able to burst into the cloud, and everything would get associated with a cloud. All of this would get associated with a CloudForms service. So when a CloudForms service will then pick up everything that I've spun up in Amazon, for example, and then manage the life cycle of those Amazon instances, retire them as they are no longer needed, spin up more, spin them down, spin them up. That's all handled by CloudForms. Because CloudForms has the insight not just into VMware and Amazon. If I decide that VMware is no longer cutting it, and that's where I'm end up going to burst instead, I can just move everything. I can just tell CloudForms, use that service, change the service to 100% Amazon, retire all my VMware virtual machines, and use that for something else. We also have a chargeback model inside of CloudForms. I doubt that's going to be of interest here. Talked about the compliance. We have a very customizable approval workflow. It's all written in Ruby, so it's really easy to change.
And I don't see, I see a lot of wonderful things up there. I was just curious, is security as far as protecting CloudForms a high priority, or are you on private networks and it's not?
It's usually on private networks. Most of the time it's on the private network.
Is there something particular that you're looking for security? What would be interesting to you?
I think what would be interesting to me would be to keep somebody from hacking in and bringing down platforms or bringing down clouds themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with this tool, you can bring up and down the whole cloud.
Oh, we can just basically with this tool, we can just we're bringing up instances and we can look at we're only bringing up instances and virtual machines, and we do have the integration points into third-party software. However, we are not going to be able to just shut off someone's your entire infrastructure with CloudForms.
Rest assured, though, in the state of Utah, it's illegal to alter the weather and the clouds without a license.
Yeah, no, it's good to know that we're protected.
Yeah.
Actually, Brandon, that's something I've thought about in the past, because CloudForms is supposed to be something for self-service that's enterprise-wide available. And that means it's going to be available to everybody in the company, right?
Yeah.
So, and it does, within it, have the ability to do pretty much everything within your infrastructure.
Yeah, that's what RBAC's for. I mean, you reduce down what that user can do.
Yeah.
You do and make it so they can only order something or run reports.
Right. But they're not going to be able to find some sort of exploit, just poking around endpoints for this application. Like, back to your question, is there a focus on application security?
Like application security on the virtual machines or CloudForms itself?
On CloudForms itself, so I can't just poke around.
So I know one of the things we're working on with CloudForms for government, I think I can talk about this one, but is Phipps Certification. That's a big deal in government. So that's one of the things I know we're working on getting for CloudForms. In fact, we have a few public sector customers I know can't use it because it's not Phipps certified. They just flat out can't use it. So, one of the things I did mention. So there was the root cause analysis. I want to know what's inside a virtual machine. That's kind of where root cause analysis comes in. One of the ways we do that, we call that smart state analysis. I'm kind of going all over the map here, but so I apologize. So smart state analysis is the ability to see what's inside a virtual machine. The way we do that, we do this completely agentless. And for VMware, we use the VDDK. For Rev, we talk straight to the storage. Usually it's because the way Rev makes images is it's just LVM. That's all it is. It's just plain old, good old LVM, everyone's favorite thing. And we just take a snapshot of the virtual machine, inspect it, and delete the snapshot. And the inspection is it'll mount it. It'll do kind of, if it's a Linux box, it cheroots it, and it does. We basically do an RPM minus QA, put that into the database, cat, etc password, cat, etc groups, and we know everything that's there. And we can also tell CloudForms other files that we want to check. If that, like for example, so if we want to know if this file's changed and we want to, if that file changes at any point, we want to mark the VM as non-compliant, do something with it, shut it off, send an email, whatever. We can do that. That's part of the control part. That's a whole, and all of that's reportable. Like every package that's in there that's installed on any of your virtual machines is reportable. We can. That's all in the CloudForms database.
Is there sort of like a driver behind that? So, for example, if it's a Windows VM, you try to automatically detect that, or is it strictly based to RPM based?
No, we also do it with Windows, and there's no special thing with it. We just mount an NTFS file system and do inspection.
Yeah, I meant more of a
like
driver
with
on your end of things, like hey,
we just need
an NTFS,
like the virtual machine, the CloudForms has, if you use the appliance, has the ability to mount and read NTFS, for example.
Sure.
We're working on, I can't remember what Microsoft's calling their new file system.
So it's trying to automatically detect whether or not the particular VM is Windows.
Yeah, we already know if it's RHEL, Windows, or Ubuntu. We support XFS, EXT, 2, 3, and 4. I don't think we support ButterFS yet, but I know we support FAT and NTFS.
Okay.
I think we also support some other file, like Riser, but no one uses that anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Bomb back in the day. Guess it's been more than 15 years though.
When was he arrested? For
It's not that long ago.
2007. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the community, because I feel like that this is the best forum for this, rather than giving a product presentation, like I just kind of went through. So the ManageIQ community, ManageIQ.org, it's a brand new community. We announced it last year at a Openstack summit in Atlanta. It's very easy to contribute to. One of the ways that we made it very approachable was the ManageIQ Depot. So if you wanted to contribute your integration, so you wrote some really cool integration you want to share with the community, just put it on ManageIQ Depot, get credit for it. It's really cool. Get noticed by Red Hat and the other community contributors. I think it's been a lot of fun. I just barely submitted my first pull request to ManageIQ Depot. I'll actually show a quick demo of what I've done. I think it's really cool. So you can at least see everything I've kind of talked about here. I've had a lot of fun with this product. I've been selling it now for 2 years. All my customers love it. Our closest competitor is VMware with VCAC. They can't even come close to half the stuff we do. Takes them months to do what we do in a few days.
I actually found a PHP application that does the same thing. Some company cloud something. Anyways, I'll complain about it.
Okay.
You do have competition, is all I'm saying. Stay on your toes.
I'm not connected to VPN. I'm gonna sit down. So this is the current version of CloudForms. And one of the things that we've done here, I'll just quickly show you some of the stuff I've talked about. So in terms of infrastructure management, I can see all my virtual machines inside my lab, probably roughly 600 virtual machines. And what I'm seeing here is just 609 virtual machines.
Is this, I didn't do a lot of research beforehand, I had a hard time drawing the line of separation. So, I mean, Openstack was mentioned earlier, so Openstack becomes effectively a back-end.
It becomes a managed platform under CloudForms.
So you could have 2 or 3 private OpenStack clouds, for example, that are being managed by this. So, so this is a picture. What you're looking at here is a picture of specific
everything.
VMs that have been launched via
Not even.
CloudForms.
This is everything. This is stuff that's been launched by CloudForms and stuff not.
Okay.
So with the way CloudForms, what's made CloudForms pretty popular is I can just import the appliance, discover VMware, Rev, and OpenStack, and it's going to pull everything in. I don't have to do a greenfield stand-up. CloudForms is just going to pick everything up I've done already.
And this is meant to be kind of an abstraction layer to prevent people from having direct access to an OpenStack login, for example?
Yeah, or to VMware, yeah.
Have a tighter grain control?
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. And another thing my customers like is they don't have to buy, like with VMware, a lot of my customers have multiple vCenters.
Sure.
They use CloudForms to manage those multiple vCenters, so they don't have to buy. There's a vCenter manager,
Yeah.
as well as their
Is this
cloud
the
management
cloud
platform.
product here, or is this locally deployable, or what?
So this is it's a OVA appliance that you import into your environment. You can also, if you're using community bits, you can use you can just put it on a CentOS virtual machine. For like Amazon, we don't, as far as I know, we don't have an AMI for this yet. As far as I know, I'd have to ask. So what I'm seeing here, we have series of stop and start, and you also see these O and A and R virtual machines. So the O stands for orphaned. What that means is it's not managed by a virtualization manager. In this case, because I'm looking at just Rev and vSphere. So it's not managed by Rev or vCenter. It's just residing on storage. And so it can't really be started. And then archived is a virtual machine that's been deleted, but I have kept the metadata of that virtual machine. So I know what was installed on that virtual machine. I know what the performance metrics were of that virtual machine. I also know the users that were on that virtual machine. And then retired is just virtual machines in a retirement state. So it could be at some point in the retirement workflow. It could, the example I give for a retirement workflow is when I go to retire a virtual machine, it needs to probably take a couple of weeks, because if the user who owns it doesn't catch the alert that his VM is being retired, you want to be able to prevent it from being deleted from the infrastructure. So on retirement, shut off the virtual machine. Another week passes, delete it from being managed by vCenter. Another week passes, delete it completely. So I figured 3 weeks is good enough for someone to complain if their virtual machine is gone.
All the discussion so far has been VMs. Does this get into container water at all?
So that is a roadmap. We're going to be able to integrate with a Kubernetes host specifically. So that's a Project Atomic, if you're familiar with that. I'll actually be giving a talk next week on that at the Utah DevOps group. That's going to be up at the Overstock headquarters in Salt Lake City. So, so I just wanted to quick. I'll just hold it. So this is just showing what users, what groups, what packages, what init processes, and the init processes are not real time. The init processes are what's basically under check config -- list all. So I know when those processes are supposed to start and stop. And then the files, those are just files I happen to be monitoring on this system. So it could be any file, whatever I want. I can just see when it was last modified, or I can also get the whole contents of the file. So that's the smart state analysis I was talking about. Everything in here is actionable. I can take action on anything on this. So if a package, like the package example, if the bash is wrong version, I can do something with this virtual machine. All right, so one of the things I wanted to show today was what I wrote for ManageIQ Depot. This is specifically, it's for Amazon. So here on this, use this Linux Flex virtual machine. You can see I have these custom attributes. So the way CloudForms today out of the box, count, manage, volumes in Amazon. Where I wrote this integration, so I knew what was attached to this virtual machine. So this volume here, and this snapshot's part of that volume, and it's attached to dev SDDD. So I can then remove it, or I can add it. So the UI is extensible, so I can just put whatever I want up there and call back to any automation method that I've written for CloudForms. So if I wanted to, say, detach that EBS volume, I'm calling back this. So this drop down here, I'm actually doing a query on Amazon, seeing what devices are attached. If I hit submit, it's going to take a minute for it to happen, but it's not mounted, so it should just, there. So that custom attribute, the way my code is written for the detach is it just removes the custom attribute. But I still know that these snapshots were associated with this virtual machine. So I wanted to keep that data with the Amazon instance. But if I want to reattach it, it's very simple code. The only volume available, so it has to be the one I had. We'll attach it. It's going to take a minute. Anyway, it's going to attach. And I also wrote the snapshot, the attach and delete, the delete snapshot. Another thing I wrote was add to elastic load balancer. I wanted to be able to manage the whole, like I mentioned F5 earlier, like managing F5 as part of a whole service. So I wrote a service that will.
When you use the term service, are you referring to, in this context, are you referring to the orchestration of a big app?
Exactly.
A meta app?
Yep. Yep. So like this service for like OpenShift, there's the all-in-one and multi-node. So like the multi-node, I'll actually go into this. I like.
That service is running on the appliance as well?
No, it does not run on the appliance. It'll run in your infrastructure. So like this one, I'm telling CloudForms how to install OpenShift. So I'm saying what the user ID, the application domain name, the server domain name, what types of gears I want running on there. If you're familiar with OpenShift terminology, those are container sizes. and then what are valid gear sizes, what's the default, where am I going to get the packages for OpenShift from, and then the passwords. I hit submit, and it will stand up a whole OpenShift environment for me. And the way this one is set up, it's going to build using OpenShift terminology, a broker, and I think it's 3 nodes, the way I have this one set up. But going to the Amazon, so I want to be able to create an elastic load balancer. So I want to give it the port, protocol. Give it a name and give it its initial availability zone. But if I wanted to add more, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cancel this one. I already have a load balancer in services. So I have this load balancer. It's attached. Looks like it's not attached to any availability zone. But if I wanted to add an availability zone, I can add it. And then I'm going to go back to that virtual machine that I was working with in Amazon. You'll see VM no records there. But if I go here, I can add it to the load balancer. What my code's going to do, it's going to add the instance to the service. So I know what is underneath that load balancer. So I can look at a glance. I have to log into, the advantage here is I'm managing everything from one console.
And you don't have to be an expert on each cloud that you're looking on. You can
Exactly.
use this tool and be cross-cloud.
Exactly.
The load balancer is CloudForms load balancer.
So like that.
service, or-
So that was just a Amazon Elastic Load Balancer.
Oh, okay.
So I can create an Elastic Load Balancer, attach virtual machines to it, make it part make it part of a whole workflow. So when I go deploy virtual machines and I need that I want to add it to a load balancer. Or get some backend storage for it.
What you just did there was perhaps actually provision this load balancer out there.
Mm-hmm. In Amazon,
Cloud.
and then I have an
You add
existing
this as a-
existing instance.
Terminology, like a backend.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a more. I just add another. I want to add this instance to that load balancer. I can do that, and I can then look at it at a glance. Like one of my biggest complaints, I used to manage Amazon as my primary job, but this was years ago when Amazon was brand new, and it was a nightmare to manage because you had to know instance ID, volume ID. There was no naming. There was no tags yet. It was like this tool. I really haven't used it since. I'm like, this tool would have changed my life back then because you had to know the load balancer ID, and it was only associated with the instance, and then you couldn't go to the load balancer to see everything that was there, or if the load balancer did happen to show you which instances were attached to it, it was just the instance ID. Here I know exactly what's there. And now it's probably a lot different. I've used Amazon a little bit. I know it's so. I know probably it's a. I know I'm probably sure it's a lot better by now.
I mean, if I'm getting the upshot of this, just like real broad view, the benefit of this tool is that you're managing multiple different clouds. You cover Azure, you cover Google, right? So it's kind of like, okay, cool.
Well, also one of the benefits of the tool is I'm getting all this data from VMware, from Amazon. If I'm just looking at it separately, they're talking two separate languages. What CloudForms does, or ManageIQ does for you, is it normalizes that data so you can act on it as a developer. So I don't have to write code twice for Amazon, I only have to write code once for CloudForms, and that code will work for OpenStack, Amazon, VMware, and Rev.
Yeah, because no matter how good Amazon's interface gets, they're not about to start giving you data on their competitors, right? So
Yeah.
this is cool.
So from that earlier example, if you took, you provisioned the load balancer, or perhaps already was, you could then add instances from other clouds that would register with that.
If that load balancer was part of a virtual private cloud in Amazon, that should be able to load balance to other things in your network if that's set up correctly. But probably the better example is like an F5 global load balancer. That would be able to interact with instances in OpenStack and in Amazon.
And this would facilitate being able to register those like that in that.
Exactly.
Question. Does this tool provide any way to manage specific versions of an OS that you want to stand up? Say you want to stand up Windows, right? You want to stand up a Windows 8, Windows 7, something like that.
Here.
Can you tell it exactly what you want, or is it just going to give you one vanilla Windows?
So I'm going to show you a couple ways this can be done. So I'm going to taking from the service catalog, I'm just going to deploy a standard RHEL box. But I want to be able to specify the version of RHEL I want to use. So this right here, this drop down, I'm picking 6.4, 6.5, or 6.6. And basically,
I was hoping there was maybe a 4 as well.
oh yeah. Actually, I think 4 is still being supported. And we'll be supporting RHEL 6 and probably until I retire.
I didn't know if somebody's still using.
Who's still using a RHEL 4?
I can't imagine who might know that it's still using.
It's okay, at least you're off Red Hat 7.3, whatever it is.
Well, we're back to 7. Just kidding.
I'm sure had those for a long time.
So,
Make a custom kernel and stuff.
so underneath the covers, in this service, basically what all this is doing is modifying a kickstart for me. So when I tell it this role of Apache and this OS version, it's actually going in and filling in variables that's going to populate a kickstart file for me. And it's just going to pixie that virtual machine for me and install everything I just specified.
Are these kind of templates built in as kind of the social aspect?
So this right here is like Rev. So Rev, I'm going to have a template in Rev just called rel 6 template _ pixie.
Is that something that
And
you
it's
as
blank.
As an end consumer had to create? Or is that
Oh,
something
no.
that's
This is
bundled?
something that the administrator created, and
That's what I-
CloudForms
yeah, sorry, that's
administrator.
what I meant. So
Yeah.
the manager of the CloudForms application had to create those. It's not like there's some common repository out there of
No,
templates.
we're utilizing templates inside your VMware environment.
So-
We're utilizing templates inside of Amazon. We're not going to create.
I would have to be responsible for having that kind of domain knowledge into those kinds of things. Versus there's no.
You as the administrator, basically CloudForms, before you've even installed CloudForms, you already have an environment where you have virtual machine templates, and CloudForms is going to just help your end users consume those.
So this is actually growing an image installation from the ground up. when
Yeah.
they select them. So are there more knobs and levers to prob, or, if you're actually
So,
installing an OS, there seems like there's.
this is
That's a
this is
very
a
minimal
this is the scale down for
yeah.
I'm a developer. I don't care what I don't want to know what
But is
network
there a
it's
way
on.
to
I
get
just want to be able to
all
get to
of
it.
the guts in the back end.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yep. Actually, using the Pixie example.
So that does the installation of an image.
Mhm.
Are there other tools that can modify an existing image?
So like modify an existing template, or
Well, depends on what you call a template. But
like I'm talking like a.
so you grow your initial image from an installation, and then are there stages that can take that and customize it?
It's like
by
customize a
adding
cloud in
leading
it.
users, growing the image size, merging images together, installing new packages, et cetera,
So-
removing packages.
That's getting pretty deep, but yeah, we can do that.
Oh, okay.
That's a lot of custom integration that would have to be done inside of the automate workflow. I'd like to do a deeper dive. I don't think there's enough time.
But all that's available in
it's
here.
all available to you. It's
We can dance across the surface with the simple interface, or you can really
so like
get into some of the.
looking back at that service dialogue, I want to be like I was hoping to, I wanted to insert the Rail version, for example, so 6.5. So I want to throw in 6.5, and I could even make it so like this RHN activation key. This is for satellite. So I could make that drop down inside of that dialog and then populate that. And that activation key is going to apply specific configurations.
Install
So
SSH keys.
Mhm.
Set passwords.
That's exactly what that would do. That would
So
be
at some
satellite.
point, you can make a true template that then, as you instantiate it, can be customized specifically for.
Mhm. This is like one of the. I personally think that using like traditional VMware templates is silly. I prefer to just use Pixie. Still, I think I get more consistent.
You prefer to just installing it from the get-go specifically.
Yeah,
as you're going
because
through.
then it's more flexible and it's easier.
Single stage.
Because I can go,
What you're gonna
not even just single stage, because like I could use this kickstart. Say I just want to do this kickstart and I wanted to do other things, like with Rev supports Cloud Init, for example. So I could then run kickstart. Next stage in the step does some stuff in Cloud Init. If I wanted to, I could do everything in kickstart. But if I wanted to, there are specific things that say you've already developed all these Cloud Init scripts that you want to use. You also have done all this kickstart stuff. You can then merge it together. Kickstart here, Cloud Init here as well, filled in with all the appropriate variables.
Just trying to leverage the typical tools, the puppets and salt stacks, and is that what?
Oh yeah, underneath the covers, I can actually we're integrating with Puppet and Chef. I actually can integrate with Puppet and Chef. I'm personally writing an integration with Salt, just as an exercise for my own.
So this is, as I understand what you're describing, you're trying to basically, not only are you trying to abstract and normalize across clouds, you're trying to normalize
Across even config management.
the management platform as well. So this is yet another abstraction on top of that. Am I hearing
Could be. Like here, like this is just a kickstart file that all I'm doing is pushing it from that service dialog. I'm just pushing the Rail version, or I'm pushing the fact that I want to use, or I can just say I'm using that one application tag that I want this to be Apache. So instead, call this kickstart, and install the virtual machine with Apache or MySQL, whatever.
It doesn't have to be an abstraction over config management.
It doesn't have to be.
So you're using Salt. So one of the things I'm going to be doing with Salt is using ManageIQ in a template as forms, basically put in some variables for a Cloud Init script to bootstrap Salt, set some grains, And then the Salt Master will still manage everything, but I can set up ManageIQ to also manage my pillar data for those different instances. So I can have a pillar associated with an instance, and that's all visible through ManageIQ. So it's not really integrated with Salt in that case. You know, it's not abstracting over Salt. It's just making it easier to use. It's just putting, in this case, it's a place to put a pillar, and a place to set the
Help you bootstrap.
and help you bootstrap Salt onto an instance.
We're integrating specifically with Upstream. It's called Foreman. I don't know if you guys have heard of Foreman or not. That's the basis for Satellite 6. So that's we're going to be integrating with that, so you can provision bare metal, do kickstart through that as well, and handle. And also, it would abstract the config management as well, because I can. So I don't care what it's for. You know, I don't.
Just creating some blurry lines there, basically.
Yeah, because Foreman today Upstream, it's not the case in Satellite 6, but in Upstream, if I was using Foreman Upstream, I can use Chef. There's also a plugin now for Salt, so it's even more abstract. I can just say, all right, use the Foreman API to do whatever you need to do.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
What other infrastructures pieces do you manage? I mean, you mentioned earlier about you might need to have, or if you have a network setup where you've got a virtual private network between Amazon and your company network or whatever, that this can help add things to load balancers and things like that. Does this configure some of that networking also, or is it just primarily compute resources?
Right now it's primarily compute. We are working on, I know, looking at the roadmap Upstream, we are working on some networking insight, but that's more into OpenStack than into like your Cisco switches. It's more so just for the OpenStack networking, software-defined networking piece.
So what work are you doing, or the product managers, company doing to drive standards so that we can get better information out of these APIs, RESTful APIs, whatnot, from Amazon, Microsoft, all the big people?
So all we're trying to do is take the information we're getting from CloudWatch, from Solometer, the VMware Rev API, metric API, and just making it so it looks no different between those four infrastructures.
Is there any pushback from some of those third parties saying, no, we'd like you to use our tool only?
Well, so all we do is integrate with CloudWatch. So like we have to utilize CloudWatch in order to get metrics from Amazon. You have to. And all we're doing is taking that data and making it more easier to consume. So you can do cloud bursting. So you can do.
And also available for more than 2 weeks.
That too.
It's great for
Because we'll keep your data for as long as you want.
Is there any kind of connection, and a lot of this stuff is kind of new water for me, is there any kind of connection between what you guys have going on with this and the likes of Mesosphere for doing?
I don't think so. I really do encourage you guys to go and download an appliance, try it out, and get one for free off ManageIQ. It's the Upstream bits. It's a little bit more unstable, but it's a good place to start. If you guys are interested in support from Red Hat, please go ahead and reach out to me. If you guys do want to actually engage in a sales conversation, I'd be happy to come and talk to you guys. But I really do encourage you to go download ManageIQ. Go discover your Amazon instances. If you can, discover some stuff at work on your VMware infrastructure. Just see what it brings back. It's non-intrusive. It's not going to blow up your vCenter.
There's discovery built in, like snap packets or something.
So like the way we discover is you just give CloudForms your the API endpoint. So your vCenter DNS name and IP address. Give it the administrator credentials, and it will go get everything. And when you delete CloudForms, it's not going to bring everything with it.
So you could suck in an image and actually put it inside of OpenStack and point it to itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it'll just go consume the data. It really is as simple as importing the template. If you want to do it on Amazon, it's all on GitHub. It's GitHub/ManageIQ, and you can. It's just a simple Ruby on Rails application. Using it requires a Postgres database though.
Which is free, which is nice.
Yep. We only support Postgres at Red Hat.
Yay.
Any questions? I kind of went over this a little around, like a little too bouncy for my taste, but
He was conscious, so it was good.
It was awesome.
Good job.
thanks.